that we want to do the DFA and the loop level symbolic analysis in a single framework, because the symbolic analysis needs to get its initial value from somewhere. So it's better to integrate the DFA analysis and the loop level symbolic analysis in a single framework. And the high-level idea is to treat the loop as a single statement and define its transfer function for the DFA. So whenever we would encounter the loop in the DFA analysis, we would just use the transfer function that we have computed for this loop. And internally, we would use the symbolic analysis to identify a precise transfer function for the loop by maybe using some other techniques. So it's somehow similar to how we treat a basic block as a single statement for efficiency, but this time we're doing this mainly for the same. So the idea is to recursively divide the CFG into regions, and region is basically a subgraph of the original graph. And then we would identify the transfer function of the constituent subregions in that. So then we considered an example about for constructing the hierarchical structure, and the main idea is that we would have a region for the entire procedure. Then we would have one region for every top level loop, and then we would have a region for every loop at the next step level, and so on until we reach the last level loops. And then we would have a region for every basic block, and then also we can choose to have a region for every individual instruction in the graph. So and also this region hierarchy can be organized as a tree. So in this analysis, we run DFA on the in the graph, and while assuming that the sub regions have the transfer functions of their own. So for computing the transfer function of this region, the most trivial transfer function would be to just that would involve running the DFA fixed point iteration on the constituent subgraph. So that would basically be just the transfer function if we were not doing the region-based analysis, and that can be computed by a simple DFA fixed point iteration. And this transfer function behaves like the original DFA, and then we would say that transfer function is more precise than the other transfer function if for all values of x, the value at the precise transfer function is greater than or equal to the value at the trivial transfer function. So this won't provide any improvement if we use the trivial function straight away. So then we considered an example about the available expressions where if we use the trivial transfer function, then we would just get the bottom value in the end. But if we use some other precise symbolic analysis, then we would get a more precise transfer function for that example. So in general, graph is represented as a a region is represented as a graph on the next level regions, and so during the fixed point iteration, we use the transfer function of the next level regions, which may or may not be true. So we may decide to keep to use the trivial function for some of the regions, and for some of the regions we may choose to use some other analysis to get a more precise transfer function. So this region-based analysis is only helpful if the region level transfer functions are more precise than the trivial DFA-based transfer function for at least some of the regions. Else the answer would basically be same as the earlier DFA-based analysis.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks.
So can I do 118?
Sure.
So we started with a definition for region, a more formal definition. So initially, so roughly speaking, we can say that a region is a portion of a flow graph that has only one point of entry, and a program is viewed as a hierarchy of regions, such regions. So if we consider block structured program, So then the individual blocks, static blocks inside of that program will be considered as individual regions which form a hierarchy amongst them. Then we formally set out a definition for region, which is that a region is a collection of nodes n and edges e, such that number one, there is a header h which belongs to the set capital N that dominates all nodes in the set n. Then second condition is that if there is some node m that can reach node small n which belongs to the set capital N without going through the header h, then m also belongs to the same set n. And then the third condition is uh, capital E is the set of all control flow edges which are also included in this graph between nodes n1 and n2 in capital N. So all the edges which belong to any of the nodes which belong to the set n, those will be the edges considered inside the set E, except possibly in some cases the edges we can exclude some edges which may enter the header edge that we see in the next example. Then we saw some examples like a natural loop that we earlier discussed is also a region. Then a basic block is also a region. A single statement, an instruction is also a region. And then more such regions could be identified in programs. Uh, then we saw another example like only the body part of a natural loop can also be considered as a region where we exclude its back edge. And the whole loop can also of course be considered a region which includes the back edge. Then we saw that compilers typically demarcate regions formed by number one on the top level, first of all procedure bodies, after that inside them on the basis of natural loops and their associated hierarchy, for example nested loops, etc. And then on the third level basic blocks, and inside them for the individual instructions or statements. Uh, then we saw an example which is which had two entries inside a particular region, but that's why we could not call it region. And then we saw another example which had two exits, but it satisfies the condition, so it can be called a region. And so for the there was a discussion on choice of regions. So the regions should be chosen such to try and produce more precise transfer functions. So they should be at least as precise as the default fallback DFA version. So we saw one example where there were 4 basic blocks, and uh, for all the branches we were coming to an instruction z equal to x plus y, where we can say that z is equal to 5, where x is 2 and y is 3, and y is 2 and x is 3 for different branches. A more precise transfer function would give this result to us, but typically compilers would not go for this kind of approach because they will only see regions based on the demarcations that we discussed earlier, for example procedures, loops, etc. And yeah, just and after that we so this example, and yes, yeah that's all.
Thanks, Vaibhav. One to one.
Yeah, I'll go ahead with 119.
119. Okay.
Yeah, so here we are talking about how to construct the region hierarchy. So firstly, we are assuming that the CFG is reducible. This is the justification is that the most programs will produce reducible CFGs, and it is possible to convert the rare non-reducible CFG to a reducible CFG using code duplication. And we are hoping such cases would be rare because this can lead to exponential blow up. So our regions from bottom to top would be basic blocks. So basic blocks are the leaf regions, and then natural loops from the inside out. So each natural loop would define two regions, a loop body, which is an acyclic graph on subregions, and a loop which is made of one subregion, which is the body and the package. And the final region would be the procedure body. So we saw some examples here where there were just regions, and we note in one example we noted that uh, that there can be multiple exits from the region, that one exit can go to the program exit and other exit was going to some other bucket, so that is valid. So then we talk about basic block regions of how, like, same thing, that how there can be uh, one basic block with two out edges. So there would be two transfer functions for the two exits in that case. So constructing the region hierarchy, that first we identify the basic blocks as regions. We replace them with a single node, and there may already be single node. Then we identify the natural loop from the inside out. We have already discussed how to identify the natural loops. We replace a loop with a node in two steps. First, the body of loop is replaced by a node representing the region R. So edges coming into the loop header come into R. Edges going out of the loop now go out of R. Back edges become self loop edges on R, and R is called the body region. So then we construct a region R prime that includes R and the self loop. So eventually all natural loops get reduced to single nodes. And since we are considering reducible graph where all cycles are natural loops, we are left with just a directed acyclic graph for the procedure body. This DAG is then collapsed into a top level procedure region. Yeah,
Thanks, Arvind.
So I'll go ahead with lecture 120.
Okay.
That's fine. So here we discuss the computational structure of a region-based DFA. So basically the computational structure of the DFA is, the first step is basically we identify the transfer function of each region and each sub-region, that we just described the hierarchy, how we'll determine the hierarchy, the region hierarchy of a program, and then we'll identify the transfer function of each region. It requires a bottom-up pass. We start from the basic block level. We've derived the transfer functions from the individual statements, the transfer functions of the individual statements. Then we go ahead and derive the loop body transfer function from the transfer function of the basic blocks that make up the loop body, and then we go ahead and derive the transfer function of the loops that are derived from the loop itself that is derived from the loop body, and so on. The second step is we compute the data flow values at each program points by using these summary transfer functions for entire regions. We do this via top-down analysis. We check a program point, and we if a program point is internal to a region, we descend down the hierarchy, the region hierarchy, and then we apply the DFAs to apply the transfer functions for the lower level hierarchy regions to find the weather values for the program points. And then we discussed an example here. It was a two-level hierarchy, a simple program where we basically discussed how to do that. Basically, there was an initialization block and there was a loop, and so in the loop, um, at a certain level of the hierarchy, we would have a loop body region that just loops into itself using a package. And at the higher level, the loop body region looping back into itself with the package would could constitute a whole loop region. Um, the transfer function of the loop body, we can derive a very precise transfer function for the loop body itself using symbolic analysis. Um, else, okay. once we derive once we derive a precise transform function of the loop body region using symbolic analysis, we can go ahead and um, derive a precise version of the transfer function of the loop itself, which we can proceed, and we can derive a very precise transfer function for the procedure region itself at the top level of the hierarchy. Now, if we want to yes, here important part is that the transfer function of the loop that we just calculated by composing the transfer function of the loop body on itself, um, and then when we proceeded to compute the transfer function of the procedure by composing the transfer function of the initial block and the loop region itself, basically these functions, these composition functions, these should just be computable functions. There is no necessary there is no condition for these functions to have closed form expressions. We can just have functions that are just for loops and such, that just apply a transfer function repeatedly. They just need to be computable, and they need to be terminating functions. For example, the trivial transfer function that we discussed, which is terminating because, as we discussed, trivial transfer function just applies a DFA and it is guaranteed to terminate. Now, once we have determined the hierarchy of regions, we want to compute the value at a certain program point, say the end of the first basic block where all the initializations were finished. Um, Here we demonstrate how we compute the value of P1 by first starting at the top level, identifying that the program point P1 is actually an interior program point, and hence we go down a hierarchy level, and then we repeat the same thing. When we go down a hierarchy level, we check if that program point P1 is now internal to the new CFG that we get at the when we go down the hierarchy level, and then we find out that P1 is not internal to that level, and so we compute the value at the P1 using the transfer function of the first block. Similarly, we do that for P2, where P2 is basically the program point, a program point just below the back edge. So basically, we proceed with a similar approach, and we get a transfer function that is basically the transfer function of the body of the loop composed on itself composed on itself multiple times and meeting with each other. Um, it's of the form f1 of m naught meet fb of f1 of m naught meet fb square of b f1 of m naught meet, and so on, an infinite series. Yes, that's it. This completes lecture of 120.
Okay, thanks, Anirudh. Let's go to the last lecture.
Oh yeah,
Thanks.
I'll do 120. Yeah, so now that we have a hierarchy of all the regions, now one thing that we notice is that at any point in the region, if you see in the hierarchy, it will be either a loop body, in which case it will have a back edge. And so in that case, we see that we have a back edge to the front of the loop. And in any other kind of regions, we see that it will be a acyclic graph, because all the internal loops will be converted into one region, right? So that will be a single basic block, kind of a block. So in that case, it will always be a cyclic region. So if we consider this kind of cases, we will find that all the regions, we will only have to worry about three kinds of operations for the transfer function. And that is, we have a basic block followed by another basic block, or let's say a region, because it may not be a basic block, but it may be a region. So we have one region followed by another region, in which case we are actually composing the first region into the second region, and that is the output of the entire thing. And another thing is that we might have to meet over two, because we have two options. Let's say if there is an if-else statement, then we can either choose one path or the other path. So in that case, we know we have to meet over those two transfer functions. Or the other case is that the region is a loop body, in which case there will be a back edge. And so what we need to do is keep applying the transfer function sometimes until it gets to a fixed point, basically. So after which, if we keep applying it, it will not change. So it will come to a fixed point. So we only need to consider these three kinds of interaction between the transfer functions of the sub-regions to actually find the transfer function of the entire region that we are considering. So in case of compositions, we already have the fallback, right? We can apply F1 and then apply F2 on top of that. So we already have that simplest form of introduction between the two transfer functions, but we want to find something that is more sophisticated. That is the thing. For example, in the mid case, if in the case where we can take one region or we can take the other region, but we can't take both of the regions, we might just meet over them, which is the intersection in most cases, or it may be the union, in which case the top value is the empty value. But we may see that in case of constant expression, if we are applying x equal to 3 in one and then x plus equal to 2, and in the other case we are doing x equal to 2, then x add equal to 3, then that just meet operation will be just the intersection, right? And that will say that, okay, so x is top because I don't know exactly. But we might choose that we will do some kind of more advanced analysis that will find that in both of the process x is at 5. So we might choose to do that if we can do. So the compiler kind of has that option. So what they want to do, they always have a fallback option, which is the meet option in this case, which is the composition other case. And in some cases, the compiler might say, okay, in this case, I know that I can do something that is more advanced and that is more meaningful, right? So in that case, they might do that more advanced kind of interaction. And the third kind of interaction is that we have a backage and a single body, a single region, and at least one backage. So in that case, we already have the fallback, which is just keep applying the transfer function from the top value until we reach a fixed point. So we can always use that if we don't have another transfer function which is more useful to us. And if the compiler actually is programmed to find something that is more advanced, let's say the loop body is very special, such that we are always increasing I by 1, and we are doing some kind of thing inside the loop body, and inside the loop body we are not changing I. So in that case, the compiler can actually do more advanced analysis and find that after I number of iterations, the value of this variable is this in a closed form. And in that case, the compiler can actually get rid of the loop entirely and compute that closed form and do that kind of thing. For example, I've seen that in LLVM. If you're in a C program, if you're doing I equal to 0, then I up to n, I plus equal to I, sorry, not sum, I plus equal to I. So sum is at 0. So essentially what we are doing is just adding 1 plus 2 up to n minus 1. So LLVM can actually analyze that and find that what we are computing is n times n minus 1 by 2, right? And they will actually change that into that and just get rid of the loop entirely. So for that kind of optimizations, we have to do loop kind of symbolic analysis, right? And in that case, that loop body will be considered one region. And in that case, instead of using the fallback transfer function over the closure, what we will find is that we can actually convert the entire loop into a closed form. And that is what LLVM will actually do. So these three are the basic three kinds of interaction between the transfer function we need to figure out to find the actually all the transfer function over the entire graph. And we can just compose over all three of these kinds to build up the entire transfer of the entire function. And so now we just see examples of what we can do. And I think I already discussed, like, for example, in constant propagation, we can do some kind of more advanced, and with looping, we can do more advanced. But for compositions, I guess we can do more advanced. For example, if we have one instruction followed by another instruction, we can just compose over them. But we might figure out that, let's say, if it is x equal to 5 and then y equal to 2, then the order don't really matter. So we might think that it may be a set instead of a sequence. We may consider it as a set. And maybe on top of that, we can do some kind of more advanced interaction. So I have to think about what we can do, but maybe we can do on top of that. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks, Indrajit. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think thank you for the summary, everyone. I'll just summarize. Basically, the region-based analysis is giving me some kind of structure. So I mean, we already know that data flow analysis has imprecisions. And we kind of looked at an example. For example, we looked at induction variables and I said, okay, you can do actually something better. But now, there's data flow analysis and then there is something better. The something better could be based on symbolic analysis. It could be based on XYZ, some kind of very high-tech analysis, right? Like the one that Indrajit mentioned, which is if you say sum is equal to sum plus I, then I do some algebraic identity thing and they say, oh, sum equals n into n plus 1 by 2 or something like that. Okay, so I mean, you can do all these things, but question is, I mean, am I going to am I going to do these analyses in small buckets? I mean, after all, I have a big program and I know how to deal with the whole program using DFA, but there are these small regions where I could have done better. How do I integrate this whole thing into a single framework? And that's what the answer to this question is, basically region-based analysis. And the good thing about the region-based analysis is that you can, I mean, you just divide. First of all, you have to divide the program into regions. How you choose the regions is up to you. It is a heuristic. You can choose any which way, but there are some there are some ways that are effective and also easy, right? And the second thing is, once you have that, but once you divide the program into regions, you can always kind of pretend, you can always use a trivial transfer functions for and kind of the region-based analysis will just degenerate into your original data flow analysis. So really, you don't lose anything at all by doing region-based analysis, but because you have structured your DFA now into regions, you have an optional opportunity to do something better in the regions of your choice. So for example, for loops, you want to do something better, or for if then else you want to do something better, or whatever, right? So you can now do that. And that's the value that region-based analysis is giving you. It allows you to marry your traditional data flow analysis with whatever sophisticated analysis you have in your mind. Okay, and it's a very popular and very powerful technique. In the next few lecture modules, we see examples of how induction variables can be modeled as a region-based analysis. The example that Indrajit used about n into n plus 1 by 2, it's also discussed. Anyway,